Welcome to a One More Adventure Developer Diary. My goal for these videos is to discuss my game design journey. As a person who's finally released his first game, I think there's value in sharing some of these stories with other people who might be in a similar position. I am of course aware that not all situations are the same, and what worked for me may not work for everyone else. For my first diary, I want to talk about the very beginning of the process. How did I determine which game was going to be my first? Over the years, I've been jotting down various game ideas. Mechanics, stories, characters, you name it. How did House in the Abyss make it to the top of the priority list? Before I started work in earnest, House in the Abyss existed as a nameless one-paragraph long document in my Google Drive. An idea about strangers waking up in a one-room building in the middle of a storm, locked in with a dead body. Originally, the only character who I had even roughly formed out was a true crime podcaster lead character, Isabella. At that point, it was just an idea, and anyone can come up with ideas. In fact, everyone often does. When I would discuss with family, friends, or former coworkers that I was going to be making a game, they would tell me that they too had ideas for cool games and would give me their elevator pitches. But it's a lot harder to mold and shape those ideas to their final functional forms. It requires a lot of work, time, and effort. For some people, that fact is why their journeys end before they ever truly begin. I knew I was going to have an opportunity early in 2024 to make a game later in the year, to work on one full-time for a short time, a matter of mere months. So as I eagerly scrolled through years' worth of game idea documents, from complex adventure games to simple mechanic cozy games, visual novels, and many others, I was wondering, how do I pick a single one to focus on? Simply, I had to take stock. Which idea would maximize the skills that I already possessed? Which would be the least time-consuming from a preparation and learning perspective? I knew going in I was a one-man team, and that every aspect of the process would be done exclusively by me. After getting my game design degree in 2013 and doing jack all with it for 11 years, I hadn't necessarily kept my programming skills sharp. Instead, my focus in that time had been writing novels, and then in 2020 I picked up drawing as a hobby. So to me, it made the most sense to focus on a type of game that would best utilize those two skills. A visual novel was the optimum choice. So why House in the Abyss? Again, it came down to planning. I knew that I was going to be doing a visual novel. I knew I wasn't going to have but a short period of time to work on it. Even with this being the quote-unquote simplest option, there would still be a fair amount of work required for one person. So I went through that original paragraph. The characters were locked in a room with a dead body in the middle of a storm. It made sense. One location, a few characters, all that was left was to determine the dead body, who it belonged to, and how it ended up dead in the first place. Light bulbs went off, ideas started to click. Other characters were added. Isabella was changed from the lead to a character that the player interacted with. As I jotted my ideas down and reformed the script, I knew I had something. I knew I had the perfect concept for my first game, and I was able to get it done in the time I allotted for myself, and now it exists in the world as my first released game, a moment of pride that I haven't experienced too often lately. So what's the takeaway here? Am I telling you that you should make a visual novel? No. As much as I love visual novels and I'm always eager to see and experience a new one, the nugget of information that I would want someone to take away from this is the importance of pre-planning. Know what your strengths are and form your ideas to take advantage of them. I knew that my forte was writing, with some experience using a 2D art program. A visual novel made the most sense for the amount of time I knew I was going to have. If time hadn't been a factor, perhaps I would have chosen a more complicated idea. Maybe I wouldn't have been as concerned with the amount of time it would have taken to learn or relearn more complex game engines than RenPy. There's a lot of infrastructure that already exists within that engine, so it was very easy to pick up and use. It's great for a first-time game dev. Now, my first project could have been an absolute disaster if I hadn't prepared properly. I'd like to think I have a pretty good work ethic. I tolerate a lot of frustration, but sometimes I'll complete projects more out of spite than anything else, and that's not a healthy way to be, by the way. But I don't think I would have eagerly started another project had that been the case. It's better to be excited by what you're doing next, and that's where I'm at now. I'm happily at work on my next project, and I'm still jotting down ideas for future ones, and I can't wait for people to see them. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this developer diary. If you have any questions about my process to this point, feel free to ask them in the comments and maybe I'll cover them in a future diary. Subscribe to this channel for more information about upcoming games, onemoreadventure.itch.io if you want to pick up House in the Abyss for yourself. I appreciate you so much for giving me your time, and I hope you continue to join me for one more adventure.